I'm Liza Schmidt, editor and investigator at Insight Crime. Since December 2023, the government of the province of Santa Fe, Argentina, has invested in policing and prisons as a part of a new push against organized crime. Since then, the crime outside prisons has dropped significantly, and control has tightened inside, but the population inside prisons has continued skyrocketing. Dynamics between criminal groups inside the prisons, specifically inside the Piñero prison in the outskirts of Rosario, has for years been a threat to authorities trying to maintain control amid chaos in the wings. In this report from the field, we'll look inside the Piñero prison and shed light on the consequences of prisoner overpopulation, the presence of organized crime from within, and the Santa Fe government's temporary solution to this pressing matter. This is Behind Bars in Argentina's Organized Crime Hotspot, one of Insight Crime's recent investigations, written by Christopher Newton and read by me, Liza Schmidt. In a wing reserved for members of Rosario's most violent gang, the Monos, I watch a pigeon moving back and forth between cells. Made up of torn sheets, plastic bottles, and whatever else is on hand, pigeons are improvised messaging devices used to communicate during lockdowns in the Piñero prison, located just outside Rosario, one of Argentina's crime hotspots. Everyone in this wing has been holed up in their cells after a woman linked to the gang was caught trying to smuggle a smartwatch to a prisoner during a visit. As tech continues to advance, organized crime continues to adapt, and the government keeps playing catch-up. With the advent of ever smaller devices, authorities installed scanners for prison visitors similar to those at airports. People tried to toss smartwatches through the bars of the roof, so the government put up narrower metal mesh to keep them out. They also put in signal blockers to make this kind of technology useless, but some messages still make it through. Still, morale in the Monos wing seems high. Pigeons are tossed from the balcony as inmates watch the FIFA Club World Cup. Boca Juniors are up 1-0 over Auckland City. One of the inmates yells, "Selfie! Selfie!" and poses for a photo with his cellmate. The mood is less jovial in the wing for the Alvarado clan, the Monos' fiercest rival, which is also on lockdown, but because of a fight between inmates. Garbage is strewn across the floor, and a thin layer of white dust coats everything after guards used an extinguisher to put out a fire that inmates started. A guard nervously fingers his shotgun and makes sure I put on body armor before entering the wing. On leaving, a banging starts up throughout the module. The government of Santa Fe, the province in which Rosario dwells, launched a new push against organized crime in December 2023, investing heavily in policing and prisons. So far, it seems to be working. Homicides on the outside have dropped to a 10-year low, and prisons like these are more tightly controlled. But as more people are rounded up and flung in jail as part of the punitive attempts to keep crime low, the population behind bars is continuing to balloon. Can the authorities keep up? Revolving doors. Many of Piñero's inmates come from the poverty-plagued outskirts of Rosario, where organized crime is headquartered. As the government continues to build more prison cells, the ecosystems that tend to funnel people into the ranks of petty and organized crime that land them in jail are being ignored. For those currently locked up in Piñero, there's little promise of rehabilitation. Some 90% of prisoners never finish secondary school, according to the province's latest report. Around 95% are not currently in any kind of education program, and over 2/3 of Piñero's inmates did not have full-time employment when they got arrested, according to the latest prison census conducted in 2024. Resources for work and education are always going to be scarcer than resources for security, at least at a time when the focus is on lowering levels of violence on the street, explained Santa Fe's Secretary of Penal Affairs, Lucia Masneri. She estimates that around 90% of the people who leave Piñero will be back in prison. In other efforts to gain control, the local government is trying to silence communication and inhibit cooperation between members of criminal groups in prison and beyond. Leaders have been placed in separate cells and are allowed no physical contact during visits, separated from loved ones and lawyers by plexiglass and cinder blocks. Top-level leaders of Rosario's gangs have all been transferred to federal penitentiaries. The number of prisoners in Santa Fe has been mounting since long before the current administration's security reforms, but the uptick in arrests now is accelerating overcrowding. It is common for 3 or 4 people to be held in one of Piñero's 2-person cells. The solution? A new facility, dubbed Hell by the government, which is already in the works not far from Piñero. 4 companies were contracted to work on the new facility simultaneously, in the hope of getting it finished in record time. With arrests and recidivism so high, the new prison is likely to fill up quickly. Asked if there was a solution to overcrowding, Mazzaneri was frank. Yes, build more prisons. This was Behind Bars in Argentina's Organized Crime Hotspot, written by Christopher Newton and read by me, Liza Schmidt. This episode is the second recent article tackling the current security and criminal situation around Rosario, Argentina. To learn more, listen to our last episode on the first piece, Is Rosario, Argentina Getting Safer? Depends who we asked. For more audio stories, podcasts, and long-form narrative journalism, be sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and Amazon Music. And to learn more about current criminal landscapes around Rosario, Argentina, and all across Latin America, visit insightcrime.org.